All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to Talking Buffalo Podcast, a Friday edition of Talking Buffalo Podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. I am your host, Patrick Moran. Thank you very much for locking in today, whether it's on the audio side, Spotify, Apple, or whether you're checking us out on the YouTube. Normally, this is Casual Friday, and I do the show with Joe Yurden, of course, every week. But as many of you know right now, Joe is still grieving. His mother sadly passed away last week, so Joe's with his family and, just going through that process. I miss him, my buddy. Much love to him. Hopefully he'll be back pretty soon. I'll tell you what, I'm really excited about today because the show obviously still must go on. I got Chad DeDomincis with me, and Chad, of course, founder of Expected Buffalo, co-host of the Expected Buffalo podcast with Anthony. I also know you're a good friend of Joe Yurden's as well.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks, man. It sucks to see somebody that you know and that you care about have to suffer loss like that,
Yeah, I really feel bad. It's hard because you really don't know what to say except like you're sorry, and that that's it feels like it's nothing, but really, I mean, what else can you say when you're going through that? Especially for like someone like me who hasn't gone through something like that. So, all I can say is I'm sorry and I'm here for you, man, and hopefully we see you back out here talking sports soon.
When he's ready to start podcasting again, because of course he has maintenance day along with Lance Lazowski. Yeah. So when he's ready to talk sports, he will. Until then, your friends are here for you, buddy, and we're thinking about you. And by the way, I thank you for doing this podcast. Not just, I would thank you regardless of when you did it, but we are taping this after 10:30 p.m. on Thursday night because, look, I mean, there was a hockey game tonight. And I'll tell you, a lot of times, Chad, me and Joe do the show, and we usually tape like Thursday early afternoon around lunchtime. And quite frankly, we don't really give a shit about that game that night if it's a podcast dropping the next day. But there was no way we were going to, we couldn't skip over that game and still have a podcast. But I appreciate you jumping on, man. It's always a thrill to talk to you, man. It's been a while, though.
Been a while. It's been before the season, I think. It's been a long while.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I've told this, I think, before, but the name, Chad DeDomincis, now it rolls off my tongue. It's natural. I remember I've been doing this podcast for like 4 years now. And I remember, and we've known each other on Twitter for quite a while, but I've never really talked to you in person, vocally, where I actually had to know your name. I've always seen your name. And I remember before the first time I ever had you on, I swear to you, man, I was rehearsing your name and just like, don't fuck the name up. When you first introduced Chad on the podcast, like I had it written out on my notes and hyphens and shit like that. But
it's tough because people's like, can you hyphenate how to say it? And I'm like, I guess. So like, I feel bad too. Like when they get it wrong. So when you do that, I'm like, I probably gave them the wrong hyphenation of how to do it. So whatever.
Well, regardless of the pronunciation, man, you're obviously one of my favorite hockey guys. And not just, obviously you're a hockey guy, you write about hockey, podcast about hockey, but you're well-rounded sports. I see your takes on lots of things. And
sure,
we'll spend at least a little bit of time. I want to get your thoughts on some things going on with the Buffalo Bills. But I mean, obviously, there's nowhere else.
After this, and I agree.
Well, there's nowhere else to start besides tonight. Well, again, this is dropping Friday morning, but Thursday night's hockey game. What a vibe, man!
What a game, huh?
What a 3-1. The Sabres win. I did see the attendance figures, 12,437, and I don't know. I'm sure, Chad, you've watched a lot of games this year where maybe the attendance was like 7,000, and it felt like there was maybe 3,500. Like the numbers were full of shit and compared to what it actually was and what it sounded like to me. And we're going to talk about a lot of layers with this game and just the Sabres in general. But 12,437 for the first time in quite a while, it feels like that was like a legit number, and it could have even been more. It was some high energy at the arena on Thursday night.
Yeah, it was right off the puck drop too. So like to see it, it's the fans were into it. I mean, we knew going in, Reinhardt didn't get a peep on Monday, and the building was not nearly as full as it was today either. But you knew Eichel was different. Not only was he Eichel, but the situation around it, the asking for a trade, and then some people just don't like Jack Eichel. And after tonight, there's going to be more people that don't like Jack Eichel. We'll save that for a little bit here, but yeah, it's, it was exciting to see. I was into it. I made sure I was ready. Usually, like sometimes for games, like I don't really sit down and get into it till like halfway through the first period, but I was into it from puck drop to the very end. So yeah, and the people were too, and the interaction and fun. It's good. Sabres fans have been through a lot the last few years, and it's it's nice for them to have one. Because I'm sure it wasn't the only person when Vegas tied it with a goofy goal that I'm like, oh god, we're gonna go to overtime. They're
Right.
terrible in overtime. Here comes the Eichel play, and then we got to watch it. When ESPN does talk about hockey, we got to watch the Eichel stuff for the next like 3 days.
I'll tell you right now, Chad, when they scored that fluky goal and it was 1-1, I'm like, you my gut was telling me, I'm like, Jack's gonna score, and that's how this game is gonna end. Before we talk about this though, so Sam Reinhart did come back on Monday, and obviously, well, the crowd was much different, and the reaction I feel like was much different. This might be a rhetorical question, but are you surprised that the crowd was so much harder on Jack Eichel than it was on Sam Reinhart?
No, not at all. I think a lot of people understood. Sam as a player. I mean, not everybody. That there were some people who don't, but understood him as a player, appreciated what he did. And of course it helps. As I was going out the door to Florida, he said some good things too. Everybody saw that video the Sabres put out where he called Adams back after the trade to thank him and say, he really wished it would have worked out and he felt bad and all that stuff. So, he actually got cheered when they announced him as a starter in the open lineup for that game.
Yeah.
So it's a drastic difference between Sam and Jack. And I really think the main thing is the trade request. I mean, Eichel put it out there himself when he talked to Friedman like the day after he got traded, and then now he likes in interviews to kind of pretend he never said that and jump around it. But I think that's the main reason. So no, there was no surprise. I expected him to get booed fully. I expected him to get booed heavily, and I expect that to continue when he does make his annual trip here.
Yeah, well, let me say this. We'll spend a few minutes talking about the post game in a minute because Jack Eichel made probably more headlines after the game than he did on the game, or he is right now as we're recording this. And we'll just talk about how we feel about Jack on and off the ice before that. But first, let's spend a couple minutes talking about this game because, again, high energy, a really good vibe. The Sabres, of course, win 3-1. And it's like, all right, so Jack Eichel goes scoreless and Peyton Krebs scores, and then Alex Tuch scores the clincher, empty net or not. He got around Jack Eichel to kind of turn the puck over.
Not only did he get the empty netter, he stole the puck from Eichel to go down the ice.
Skates down from a bad angle too.
Yep.
And he scored, and you could just see in his body and his face Tuch the enthusiasm in it. But it's like, all right, so Jack don't score, Peyton does, Tuch does, just the way we all drew it up, right? Just the way we all thought it was going to be, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, going forward, I'm sure we won't have as many as those games. He'll get his against Sabres eventually over the next 5 years. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was good for fans to have that moment. The team was into it. You could tell right away. It feels like they knew what was on the line, essentially. They said they fed off the fans early. And not only was it Eichel's, return too. I mean, don't forget, we saw at the end of the game that they were going for Anderson's 300th win too. So, that plays into it too. So not only was it an Eichel thing, it was Anderson's chance to win game 300 at home. So the team was into it. Feisty, physical, 2 fights. The second fight, I think, was garbage from how Keegan Colasar acted and, knocked Fitzpatrick out of the game. Or Fitzgerald, I'm sorry. I get the Fitzgerald mixed up.
We might talk about Fitzpatrick in a little bit, but yeah.
But knocked Fitzgerald out of the game with the cheap hits laying on the ice. So we'll see where that goes, if anywhere. But yeah, it's just a high energy game. Fans into it. You had the fights if you like that. You had the hits. I mean, you even had Dahlin like a few times. He really could have took some guys' heads off and kind of laid up on hits. One time on like Marshall in the third, or I think it was Marshall in the third period. He really had him lined up coming across the middle, and he just kind of dipped his shoulder into him. But if that was a different guy, I think Marshall might have ended up in the first row. But yeah, overall, it was fun. A fun night.
It was really cool after the game to see not even so much the fans, how they felt about Anderson getting win 300, but the team, the players, how excited they were for him. I never really I mean, I don't know why, but until this game tonight, I never really stopped, I guess, to appreciate the positive impact that Anderson is having on his team. And I did hear some of his post game comments. I don't remember what he said word for word, so I'm going to be paraphrasing, but something along the lines of he's just trying to help these kids out and mentor them. And he went out of his way to kind of say something along the lines of learning. He's trying to teach them what to learn from the mistakes that he made, the things that he should have done that he didn't as a player. And never really hit me until tonight. It's like, forget about what he's doing on the ice, which hasn't been terrible in that, considering his age and circumstance and all that. But it's like this guy probably is being he's probably had a much bigger impact on this team off the ice than a lot of fans, I think, are giving credit for.
Absolutely. And that was the thing when they brought him in. He even said when he signed it, he didn't think he was going to play this year. And then the Sabres called him, told him what his role was going to be, what they wanted for him, and he was 100% in all the way from the very beginning. So, that's a great move by the Sabres to get these veterans in, where in the past, if they brought these veteran guys in, it really hasn't worked. Where, I think with Anderson and I think of Hossa, what he's done, and Girgensons when he's around. He's been hurt, but he'll be back soon. But even some of that veteran leadership, but then getting Tuck in here, getting a guy who he hasn't won a ring, but he's made long playoff drives with teams. He knows what it takes this league to win, and he's a passionate guy too. So I think, having those guys around these younger guys, to kind of have that rub off on them, and then just kind of bring team camaraderie. I mean, Anderson said it today. They all get along. They all hang out. I've heard too that they're a very close team.
Yeah.
So, that's good. Doesn't mean you're going to win a lot of games on the ice. No, but it's a start, right? It's a start that you have a close team of guys coming up together, a bunch of young kids essentially at this point, still under 20 years old, most of them. So it's promise. I keep telling people there's legitimate promise here for the first time in a long time. I mean, we've had to fabricate promise the last 4 or 5 years, where this time, it's real, and we'll see how real it is in a year or two, but it definitely looks like it is right now.
You brought up Kyle Okposo, and it got me thinking. From the first maybe, I don't know, 2 periods, I didn't have a single tweet about this game, not one.
Mm-hmm.
And then on that goal that Olsen scored, what a nice setup that was from Okposo. And it got me thinking. I'm like, this is a guy who a lot of fans, and myself included, by the way, really shit on a lot more than was deserved. Not this year, obviously, because this is what I'm talking about. He's been really, really good this year.
Yeah.
But there was a nice span of his career where, like, all we kept whenever the name Kyle Okposo came up, it would be like, can they trade him for anything? Or what, buying him out, just getting rid of the guy in his crazy contract and stuff like that. But it's like, now I'm like, this guy's kind of, well, I don't want to say he's worth the money because that shit is such a big contract, but he is a very good influence on this team. And I think he always has been.
Yeah.
But for whatever, I don't know, man, Chad. I mean, you would know better than me, but this year it just seems like he's taking his game to another level with Buffalo, at least compared to the last couple of years anyway, ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, he found the fountain of youth. I would like to know where it is, because he found it. I mean, he looks faster, he looks stronger, he looks better on the walls. I mean, there was times last year, and again, it could be a Kruger effect. You just watch him play, and you're like, this guy's toast. Can't skate. He's slow, loses the puck constantly. Not this year. Whole different player. Now, he mentioned some of it was maybe he wasn't in the best shape last season, and he took that to heart this offseason, or this past offseason, and came into camp better shape, and I'm sure that's part of it. And I'm sure the other part of it is, he's not the captain, but realistically, this is his team. And I think he has embraced that role. I think he's excited about it. And I think he really passionately takes to heart that this is his team, and he is going to lead them as long as he's here and show them the way. And, he does it on and off the ice. So, it's funny. I think of Okposo, instead of making 6, if he made $3.5, $4 million, people would absolutely love this guy. He would just the perfect amount of money for him to make for what he gives you. But one more year left on the contract. He'll be here next year. And then we'll kind of see what they do at that point. It'll be interesting. It's a conversation a year away, but it'll be interesting to see what they do maybe next deadline, if they look to move him. But he'll be here next year. He'll be part of the leadership group again. I'm assuming Tuck probably is going to have a C in his jersey, but I think, Postal will have A too, and they'll be part of that leadership group with the
Yeah,
young group again.
for sure. I think Kyle Postal is going to be one of those guys where maybe he's not fully appreciated right now. Although I do think fans like him,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say that years down the road, people are really going to look back
For
and
sure.
very fondly of him. You know what I mean? It's kind of
Yep.
his appreciation is going to go up as the years go by. You know, funny to me, by the way, after the game from Ryan Murr on Twitter, he said, it's funny, but it's not that far from the truth. He goes, I haven't seen the crowd cheer this loud since the Cam Atkinson goal. That's when they clinched the tank for the Sabres.
Yep.
That's not really that far off, man.
No, I mean, there was the 10-game winning streak where it was pretty crazy in there.
Moments.
But that was really it. I mean, there was a few in there, here and there, but
not
but
many.
yeah, I mean, it was not many at all for sure. I mean, so Eichel wasn't that wrong. There wasn't a lot. There was some, but there wasn't a lot. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see. You know, it put
felt
a smile on your face.
It felt great for take away, forget the Eichel aspect and forget, you know, Krebs and Tuck playing against their old team as well. Forget that. Just focus on it as just a normal hockey game itself, which it wasn't. But I'm saying it just felt really good tonight to hear the crowd on TV. When you could hear the crowd on TV like we did, and you could almost sounding corny, but it's true. Like you can almost like feel the energy through the television. It's been a long time since it's felt that way for me. And I've been going back years and years, and it kind of makes me angry in a way. Every time the Sabres do something good, the downside is it kind of gets me angry because then I start remembering that this was the norm. Well, it was a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago, but this used to be. Younger fans probably don't even know this right now. In your young 20s, you don't know this shit. But this kind of vibe that you saw tonight was it was almost a norm for a long time. You know, it's frustrating in that regards.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know, it's the other thing too, the other aspect of it is, you know, we've seen the attendance. When you have a night like tonight, when you get 12,000 people in there, some people for the first time in a while in that building,
sure,
you get the, and that was fun. I'll spend $30 and go next week or go to this game or that game. Or if you bring your kid to the game and your kid has fun and then they tell dad they want to go back or mom, I want to go back. So really, I mean, having a night like tonight where you really get, you know, the biggest crowd you've had all season, essentially, according to the numbers that they put out. And, you know, that's always not 100% accurate, but, you know, to have that, I think is going to go a long way for the Sabres. You know, it's not going to all of a sudden make every single game 10,000 fans, but instead of 8,000, maybe now you get 9,000 and maybe get a little more passion. And then, you know, with Quinn and Patrick and Power get here in the next month, then maybe you do start to see 10, 12, 13,000 fans because they're coming to see those guys, to see the future. I think especially when Power gets here, you know, maybe the end of the season, the last month or so, you're going to see that attendance bump up pretty high because people want to see him.
Yeah. I would say, all right, so we're talking about like the energy and the vibe was really good, especially in the third period in a close game where the Sabres pulled it out. Cause I think a lot of people were ultimately waiting, like I had said a few minutes ago, for Jack to score and the Sabres
waiting for the bad news to come.
Yeah, because that's common with the Sabres.
Yeah.
That aside though, as for Jack himself, the crowd reaction, it was very divided, very mixed. It was like Trump versus Biden in 2020 all over again. You're like, you're on one side or you're on the other.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing
in the
this.
Yeah.
Nobody was in the middle class, you know, golf. There's no golf claps. You were either on your feet for the dude or you were booing your head off. I seen one sign that said, thanks for nothing, Jack. I thought it might have been a little bit extreme. Were you at all surprised by the reaction from the crowd? Is this kind of what you expected to see?
Yeah, 100%. It's, you know, it's what I thought would be the case. I think I agree. Some of the signs would be a bit much, but whatever. It's all in good fun, you know. Who cares? But yeah, I mean, I went into this game. You know, my feeling is I put it on Twitter. I don't have anything against the guy. You know, it's whatever. You know, the team was bad. He wanted to move. Yes, they traded him. I get you had the neck thing in there, and I'm not going to get into the semantics of who was right, who was wrong there.
Sure.
But you know, it is what it is. You know, but at the same time, like I said when we started this, you know what you did. You asked for a trade, so don't be surprised when you get the reaction you got. I mean, you asked to leave. Any sports town, if a player asks to leave, man, it's you're free game. Like you deserve to get the booze you get. It's sports. That's the kind of the way it works. You know, it's It's not like a Pominville thing here, even a Reinhardt thing where you didn't ask to leave, but I mean, you kind of knew it was coming, but no, it is what it is. And he didn't like it, apparently. And he kind of made that known, but,
Well, I
tough.
agree. I agree with you because, and only because of the revelation that came out recently where we found out that he wanted to trade early in
Hmm.
his contract. Now, if it would have been he wanted to get traded because of how his injury was handled and stuff, I wouldn't blame
Right.
him.
That's different. Yep.
Right. That
But
is
he asked
different.
for it a year before. So before the whole
Right.
injury, he wanted out.
Yeah. No, and I understand and I agree with that. Um, the tribute video that the Sabres put together, did you think it was good? I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. I thought it was
Yeah. I
good.
was a little bit nervous after what they did for Reinhardt on Monday, but yeah, it was fine. It was about a minute long. I liked how they did the off ice stuff too, because they really did not promote when he was here a lot of the off ice stuff that he did.
True.
So I'm glad they included that in the video to kind of show really in the community how involved he was, because if there is one thing you can say Jack kind of got a raw deal on, I think that was it when he was here, is how little they promoted the stuff he did. And you know where if you look at the other side with Josh Allen, they have a camera on that guy 24/7 no matter what he does.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was definitely not the case for Eichel.
I agree 100%. I'll tell you what, I want to take a real quick break. And on the other side, I want to talk about Jack Eichel post game because this was pretty explosive. And then I do want to spend a couple of minutes talking Bills. Be right back. Chad DeDomincis. All right, I am back with Chad, and I'm surprised. I'm not gonna lie. Post game, very bitter, petty Jack Eichel. But I'll tell you what, Chad, I am gonna try and make an attempt to look at this a little bit objectively. Um, well, first, I got to read these quotes because these are direct quotes. I was paraphrasing earlier about Greg Anderson. These are like
You got to
literal
watch the
words.
video too. The video is important because you need to see not only his face but his like body language too. So
Agreed.
later, check if you haven't seen it, or Pat, if you haven't watched the video yet, watch the video because that like adds to it. Like he's like looking around. He's doing just that attitude. Like this, I think even makes it even more
Very,
like
very shitty attitude after the
yeah.
game. This is what he said. I'm going to quote two lines here. He said, "That's the loudest I've heard this place ever. It only took 7 years and me leaving for them to get into the game." I wish I could say it in the tone that he said it, which I can't duplicate it. But those are some strong ass words. And then he also said, "They might just be booing me because they wish I was still here." All right. So I asked you if you were surprised about the Jack Eichel reaction from the fans, and obviously you weren't. Are you surprised that he came this strong after the game? And I got
Yes.
a take on this as well, because again, I'm going to at least attempt to look at this semi objectively. I thought it was bullshit. The pettiness, the way he handled it. It was a very sore loser to me. But anyway, what were your thoughts on when you heard this or saw this?
Yeah, so I saw it live and I was actually looking down updating charts, and the second he started, I didn't hear like I guess I didn't see it live, his reaction when he started talking, but the second I heard him like say like the 7 years thing, like I looked up, I was like, whoa. And I immediately then I started watching from there. Um yeah, it's like I don't know, like I just didn't expect it. Maybe that's you should have, and all the stuff that people said about, Jack, you're like, I don't know if that's true. I mean, okay, like some of you made those people kind of look like they were right tonight, Jack, about how you just the pettiness. And he talked about, in his ESPN interview, how he's trying to be more mature and not take losses so seriously and everything, but I mean, and I get it. Heat of the moment, microphone, camera in your
That's
face,
the
break it
thing.
off the ice. I
Frustrated,
understand.
very frustrated.
I understand. But man, like you don't walk those back. You cannot walk it back. You said what you said. You said what you believe, because when you're in the heat of the moment like that, you say what you believe.
Yeah.
You said it. So yeah, I mean, part of me also thinks that I sort of think, and I could be reaching, but maybe not, that Vegas is not gonna love that he came with that. Like I feel like someone's gonna go to him and say, "Okay, Jack, I understand, but that's not how we do things here. Like that you're not gonna have that type of attitude." Like, so maybe even Vegas kind of got the first look at like his pettiness, childness side where they're like, oh, okay. So I wonder if someone kind of has a conversation with him, but maybe they don't, and it's just me reaching for stuff. But yeah, it's whatever. I mean, also you love a good villain. Part of me hoped that somebody asked Alex Tuck what they thought of his comments, but I didn't see anything because I kind of wanted the riot to keep going here. Maybe you get Tuck to say something, but I don't think I got anything out of that. But yeah, I mean,
future Captain Alex Tuck.
Yeah,
didn't do.
It would have been nice. It would have been nice. Go find like the pettiest. Like this would have been like a good Risto moment. Like if Ristolainen was still here and someone like told him what Eichel said, he for sure would have had a comment.
Yeah,
he was the guy who didn't care. He'd say whatever he was thinking.
Jack Eichel was the hot chick who dumped her man, and then the man moved on and is happy now. And the hot chick can't take that shit. So she's gonna throw shade at him. I thought it was completely uncalled for. I will say it was, I mean, you just spoke about this as well. It was heat of the moment. I'm sure he was frustrated. This was not another game for him. He had this, just like us as fans. Chad, the second this trade got done, literally my eyes weren't even done reading the tweets, and I was already scurrying on over to NHL.com and checking the schedule to see when Vegas was coming to Buffalo. I'm sure Jack has had this schedule or this circle on the calendar for a while. Sure. I'm sure there's nothing more on earth he wanted to do than to come here and beat the shit out of Buffalo, just like Sam Reinhart in Florida did, earlier in the week. I'm sure he's incredibly frustrated. But to your point, and you're right, this does show, and if you're a Vegas fan, you might be a little, at least one little red flag might be waving right now because we're like, oh, so this is how he's going to handle adversity.
Yeah,
that's not a good look, man. It's not a good look.
And not to mention, this is also, I mean, on top of losing to the Sabres, Vegas they're in trouble right now. Yeah. They're hurt. They are 2 points up on Edmonton. They have lost the last two nights to so they lost to Philadelphia on, what are we? Tuesday, lost to Philadelphia. They lost to Buffalo today. Oh, by the way, they go play the Penguins tomorrow night. And then I think I forgot where else they go, but like this is a long road trip they're on right now. And I think they're now 1-3 on this trip. And then, like I said, you go to Pittsburgh on back-to-back nights. Oh, by the way, you don't have your goaltender and you have the AHL goalie playing against the Penguins tomorrow. Good luck. And then I think they go out to Western Canada on the way back towards Vegas. So, yeah, I mean, on top of it, I'm sure that's not helping because I think they've only won 1 or 2 games since he's actually been there, which is also in itself kind of funny. Like he's, talked about going to Vegas, finally being able to win now, and they've only won like twice out of the 5 games he's played. So
if you hate Jack for whatever reason, if you hate Jack Eichel for whatever reason, he's giving you plenty of ammunition right now for all the points, all your bullet points on your Jack Eichel hatred because they're not he's great. He's a good player.
And I thought he actually played good in that game.
Yeah, I mean, he's scoring. He is scoring. So he's not 100% either, but he's playing good hockey. The team's not winning. He had some very petty comments tonight. Just that, I don't know, like you said in the video, it is definitely hits you different if you see it as opposed to if you just read it or even hear it. It definitely hits you different when you can see his facial expression,
the body language,
the facial language on him. It just, it was really a turn up. I really hope now, maybe going forward to some extent at least, that everyone could just move on. I know Jack's always going to be a big deal coming back. Now, unlike Ristolainen and Reinhart, he's in the Western Conference. So you're only going to see him in Buffalo once a year, and you're going to play him twice a year. It might lessen a little bit. It might not be like tonight every year, although maybe it will be.
That maybe next time might be because of what he said, but after that, maybe not as bad. Yeah.
But it's like tonight was again, it almost felt fictional to me, Chad. It's like, this is what it can be. You beat them. He doesn't score. Who cares if he scores or not? You win the game.
Yeah.
And the two big pieces that you got in this trade both score. Yep. And Krebs scored a nice guy. I mean, Hinostroza was a beautiful pass. So he was in good position. He skated and got himself in good position to redirect and tip that in. And then, like I said, just the Tuck goal was a hustle goal. It's like, this is what we have now. Let's not worry about, I hope at least anyway, some fans at least start to spend more of their energy, if not all of it, worrying about what this team has right now, instead of worrying about Sam and worrying about Jack and what they're up to, like we did we obsessed over Ryan O'Reilly for a couple of years when he was with St. Louis. What is he up to? But this young team, this core, do you feel like a game like today, even if it's just one game, do you feel like this could springboard them to play much better for the rest of the year? Well, we got like 23 games left. And granted, again, they're tied for 28th in the NHL.
Yeah.
They ain't going nowhere this year.
No.
That's not even what I'm talking about. But just playing more consistently better hockey, is this the kind of game you think that can help them build a lot of confidence and maybe bring them closer together, like Anderson was talking about post game?
Yeah, I think so. Especially when coming off, the Kings loss and then, getting your head kicked in by the Panthers on Monday. I think it's good to get this one in because, in the middle of this reunion week, you end it with the Heritage Classic against the Leafs on Sunday outside.
Yeah.
So you have a cool outdoor game. So I think getting this win, maybe brings them together, gets them excited. You're going to get some guys back here too after the Heritage Classic. Then they head out west on the trade deadline. But you're going to get some guys back here over the next few games. Which is good because, Fitzgerald going out tonight with the injury. You lost Asplin too. So you're going to need some bodies to fill in there, especially right when you look like you had to send some guys down. It always works out where you manage to get away with it. When guys are coming back, other guys come out and, they'll be able to kind of make it work all the way to the deadline. So that's, good for them in that regard. But yeah, I think it's a nice springboard, at least for the game Sunday. We've seen from the Sabres team that, we've seen it last week. They beat the Leafs. They beat the Wild, feeling really good about themselves, lay an egg against the Kings, get crushed by Florida. Yeah. And then you win against Vegas. So, I don't know. Are you feeling good about yourself against Toronto? You got to feel Toronto's probably pretty mad because you embarrassed them last time you were in their barn. So, we'll see what kind of mood the Leafs are in, although they don't have a goaltender that can stop a puck right now. But, we'll see how that goes on Sunday.
Before we spend a couple minutes talking Bills here, you mentioned excuse me, you mentioned the NHL trade deadline, and you look at guys like Quinn. You said hopefully Owen Power, like you said, will be up for the end of the season. Maybe Paterka gets back up before the end of the season. You got these young guys, a lot of them in the lineup now. Who do you think is maybe one or two guys? Because to play these guys, there's some guys that are going to have to not be in the lineup, whether there's scratches or if an injury happens, of course. But there's at least a couple of these skaters, these veterans might be gone. Who do you think, and what do we got? Like about a week and a half left now before the trade deadline. Who are a couple guys that you think are most likely to end up getting dealt before the deadline?
Yeah, so it's a week from Monday. So I think guys that definitely go are Colin Miller and Robert Hagg. I think they're both definitely gone. I would put Vinny Hinostroza probably in that category too. And then you get to Cody Eakin, who I just had this feeling all along they're going to move him. So my gut says he's going to go too. So we have four guys right now. I don't think Butcher goes anywhere. And then the only other guy that is, there's Mark Pesic too. But again, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I don't know. I mean, Pesic's hard. Maybe he didn't play tonight. So maybe he does. We'll see. But the guy that I think is interesting to talk about is Craig Anderson. So it'll be 100% up to him what he wants to do. I'm sure they will ask him if he wants to stay on this team or if he would like him to move somewhere where he can chase a ring maybe for the final time. My gut tells me he stays, but I wouldn't completely rule out the possibility of him going if he asks and agrees, whatever comes first, whatever way it goes. But I think he's the one guy that's interesting to watch, where the other ones you kind of know who is probably going to go.
I want to piggyback off some of the info you just gave us. Anderson, whether he stays or whether he goes, is it your opinion that UPL should be up here playing games for the Sabres, or do you think he should be right where he is right now? You do think he should be up in Buffalo?
Yeah, I think after the West Coast trip, he will be up because I think then they won't be worried to lose Tokarski, especially if Anderson stays. Then they can put Tokarski through waivers. If someone claims them, whatever. So, and I think Luukkonen has deserved an opportunity to be up. He played well before he got hurt. His AHL numbers haven't been great since he went back, but I honestly don't care because the AHL numbers were never good. And every time he comes to the NHL, he plays well. So, I don't care what happens in the AHL. Just get him back up. He deserved it. You got to keep that thing going, especially with the young guys. That if you earn your spot, you get to keep it. So I get sending him back for a couple of weeks until the deadline to get back in the flow of it, to play a few games. That has happened now. So I would fully expect after that West Coast trip to for him to be up with the team.
You mentioned a handful of defensemen as potential guys to move before the trade deadline. And it got me thinking, we spent a lot of time talking about the young kids and the young guys on this team, like Krebs, and talking, of course, Cousins, Middlestat, and so on and so forth. Of course, obviously, Rasmus Dahlin. Tonight, I want your take on Samuelson because I think they went out of their way to really compliment him. In fact, I think they said the guy on TV, Bucci, said he had a monster game tonight. Is that what you're seeing too? Because
Yeah.
he, at least for me, and again, I don't watch hockey with the same as often as you do or as closely as you do. What are your thoughts right now on how Samuelson's looking?
He's been excellent for them. I tweeted out the charts. I didn't think it was as drastic as it was, but it really, when watching the game, it felt like every shift, either Bryson, Dahlin, or Samuelson were on the ice from about this half of the second period for the rest of the game. And that kind of plays out. I mean, they all played, those three, I think, were near upward of 18 to 20 minutes, all three of them at 5-on-5, which is kind of crazy. So especially when you lost, Fitzgerald, they really leaned on those three. But yeah, he's excellent. He's just so good and strong defensively. I forgot who the player was, but that plays in a stick in my head for a long time. It might have been Chandler Stevenson coming down the wall. You're like, he's smoked, he's burned. And nope, Samuelson just, I'm gonna look at my reach, poke check, rushes over. Like he's, his ability to use his stick is impressive. The way he has improved his footwork from in college to where he is now has been impressive. We've seen it start to kind of, really start to take place the last year and a half or so when he played in the AHL. When I was watching the Amerks last year specifically, I was like, wow, this is really not the guy I watched a lot in college. Just he moves a lot better. He's more, comfortable against the rush. So, you're seeing all of that. And then to see it actually not only go from college level to a pro level improvement in the AHL, but he's actually even like taken to that next step at the NHL level. So, it's impressive. You have a legit top 4 left shot defenseman. And the crazy part is he actually probably can be a dynamite third pair for you because, by the way, your first and second pair defensemen are Owen Power and Rasmus Dahlin. So your left side of your blue line is absolutely stacked. And oh, by the way, Ryan Johnson, who also looks really good playing in college, is also a left shot defenseman. So they're pretty logjam on the left side. Maybe Johnson flips to the right. But the left side of their defense looks rock solid for the next, I don't know what, 7-8 years.
Let's switch gears here. Let's talk a couple minutes Buffalo Bills. Got the
Okay.
hockey guy here, so of course we'll talk a little bit of football. What are your thoughts on how you think Brandon Beane and the Buffalo Bills are going to be approaching free agency? We're hearing some rumblings, some reports here and there. Tim Graham reported last week that the Bills have interest in Gronk if he doesn't retire. There was a report even on Thursday. It was from someone in the Athletic that the Bills are going to be a top suitor for tight end Evan Ingram, who also he's like a big slot receiver, maybe
right.
more so than a tight end. Do you have the well, let me ask you this first, because I want your take on what you think, not what the Bills should do.
Okay.
What do you think the Bills' approach is going to be to free agency right now? Because we are seeing, obviously, some teams being very aggressive. Do you think that Brandon Beane is ready to be aggressive and go out there and try to get a home run hitter, whether it's on offense or defensive side of the ball, a big trade, maybe a big name, a splashy kind of free agent signing? Or do you see this team continuing kind of what they did last year and to a lesser extent the year before, where they reward their own guys with extensions and re-signing their own guys and just continue to build through the draft? Like, how do you think the Bills are going to approach this?
I think they're really gonna chase for somebody big.
Do you?
I just did my gut. I don't know if it's offense or defense, but I think they're gonna try to get somebody big. And one of the reasons I think that is because I think what the Broncos did turns up the pressure. Because while in theory it might get you a cleaner path to the 1 seed, that AFC is just a death run.
Sure. Yeah,
There's three
absolutely.
teams that are loaded in the AFC West. There's Baltimore. There's Cincinnati. If you want to count New England, I kind of I don't really care about them.
Say what you
But
will about Tennessee too. They were the number one
Tennessee, yeah,
seed.
they're there every single year. Every year, you're like, they're not that good, but they're there every year.
They're there.
And then if Trevor Lawrence figures it out with his new coach, and that's another quarterback, so like, I feel bad for the teams in that conference that don't have a quarterback because you just throw your hands up and say, "What am I even doing?" Because you have no shot, just no shot with the way that conference is stacked right now. So
Yeah, I agree with you. I sincerely hope that you are correct. I'm concerned that you're not, and I hope you're correct. Here's what I'm going to say, and this is not going to be popular, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm going to say it tonight, and I'll probably be saying it a lot during the offseason, and Bills fans are not going to fucking like this very much. But I'm going to say it anyway. Here's the bottom line with the Bills. Now, you've seen Vegas has Buffalo as the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl right now. Yep. I get it. I understand. That's cool. I like it too. Just like most fans, I like to see stuff like that. The Bills are the biggest favorite to win their division more than any other team in the NFL is favored to win theirs. I get that. You know what the Buffalo Bills are to me right now? Chad, they're paper champs. That's all they are. They're paper champs. I know that's not fun to say, and I know people don't want to hear that shit, but the Bills right now are paper champs. I don't give a shit about winning Super Bowls in Vegas in February and March. And there were times last year, I remember the Bills were the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl during the season. Bottom line, 2 years ago, the team lost in the AFC Championship. Last year, they lost in the divisional round. However they lost, they lost. All right? You know what I'm saying? Yep. Now is not the time to worry about the salary cap in 2027 because you just hit on it perfect, man. You got Buffalo and KC. So you got KC right there at the top. You got Cincinnati, who just literally went to the Super Bowl. Yep. Joey Burrow and Jamar Chase ain't going to get worse. No. You know what I mean? They're going to improve. Lamar Jackson's back. If Baltimore's healthy, they're a real good team. Denver had a lot of talent, but a shit quarterback. Not no more. The Chargers are lethally dangerous with that offense. And they just traded for Khalil Mack on Thursday.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, you mentioned New England, Tennessee. Who knows? Last year, we would have laughed and we would have mentioned Cincinnati amongst the good AFC teams. They were 4-11.
That could be Jacksonville this year. I'm telling you, that could be Jacksonville with the new coach.
It sounds funny now, but again, if I told you last year, since he's in the mix, Cincinnati was 4-11-1 last year and had the 5th pick of the draft. They sucked. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it's like, my point is this. I don't care where you're ranked or if you're the favorite in February, you're a paper champion until you go on the field and get to a Super Bowl. And right now, the Bills are paper champs. And you got to go out. You get an opportunity to upgrade on both sides of the ball. Now is the time to do it. They've built for the future, and that's great. But you got to be aggressive now. If you can go on and get an upgrade over Jerry Hughes at defensive end, pass rushing, you have to. If you can go on and get any tight end will be an improvement over Tommy Sweeney because they want to run more 2 tight end sets. Or, you want to get an upgrade over Cole Beasley, who's not going to be back. I'm going to tell you that right now.
No,
Chad, he's not coming back. No. He's definitely not coming back.
No.
That's how you have to act right now. You can't worry about too much the future. I will say one thing, and let me know if you agree with this, Chad. Do you think Brandon Beane might have a little bit of concern that bringing a guy in, say a free agent, let's just say somebody like Chandler Jones or I don't know, maybe Allen Robinson from Chicago, somebody like that, or Cordell Patterson from Atlanta. It doesn't seem to be his ammo to bring somebody in as a free agent who's going to make more money than the guys that are in that locker room. Like his thing it seems to be, let's reward our own, let's extend our own, we're growing our own. And maybe he's worried about what the locker room might think if a guy like I said, a guy like Chandler Jones is coming in making $9 million a year more than whatever linebacker or defensive end it might be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. I guess that's what you have McDermott and his culture for. Now, McDermott's culture, we have to get into this, I think has taken a couple shots to the armor this offseason by some stuff that has come out. But
sure
that's what you have McDermott for. And that's, this is where this franchise is. It's Super Bowl or bust. Like, I'm sorry. If you lose to the Kansas City Chiefs again in the divisional round, I don't care how good Patrick Mahomes is and how many touchdowns Josh Allen throws for in that game, if you lose, it is a failure. You failed. Like that's the way it works now. I mean, I get it. For 17 years we didn't have playoffs, but we're past that. Like it is the stage now where you go to the Super Bowl or your season was a failure. Like the regular season's going to be so frustrating for me because I don't even care. Just tell me when the playoffs start. Like I don't mean, the only thing I really care about is we're going to get a 1 seed. But beyond that, like I don't even care about the regular season games. I have no care whatsoever. Just tell me when the playoffs start because that's when it matters. And winning and going to that point matters. So if you have to get better defensive ends, if you have to get better receivers, more weapons, I don't care. I sell your soul for the next 2 years because in the third year, you still probably have one of the best quarterbacks in the year of the league. And hopefully he can drag you around, but at least you can be like, yeah, but I have the shiny trophy that I won in the meantime, if he doesn't.
I think Josh Allen, if he's not there right now, I think Josh Allen is at the point where he's on the precipice of being the best player in the NFL. And I truly believe that. That's not a homer statement. I promise you it's not a homer statement.
No,
I truly,
you're not wrong. I mean,
I've
had my doubts and my criticism about him at times, but I mean, that dude just wins games, and especially in the playoffs. I mean, I think that was the thing about that loss that bothered me so much. It's not that they lost, it's that Allen was just robbed of having potentially one of the best playoff performances in history to lead a team to a Super Bowl and probably, maybe stop starting, probably could have won. So, I think that was that's still the most frustrating now and was at the time, is because of how unfair it was to him when he deserves so much more.
I've never in my life, and I've been a football fan my whole life, and I've watched the Bills almost my entire life, and I'm old, man, and I'm telling you now, I've never seen a quarterback in my life play better than Josh Allen did against New England in Kansas City. And I know New England, they literally scored a touchdown every single drive. I know that, but he was even better against Kansas City.
He's even better against Kansas City. It was
even better because of the plays that he made when he had to. Yep. There was, and this might be a big difference between Jack. If you're a Jack Eichel hater, for all of his immense talent and stuff, it's like, what has he won? What has he done? When has he taken over games where it absolutely mattered the most and put his team on his back and carried them to huge wins? In fairness to him, the talent around him hasn't been good. But
it's easier for a quarterback in football to do too.
Absolutely.
The ball and every single play.
Right. Absolutely. And I would say my point is why I think the Kansas City game was the best game I've ever seen is just because he just, forget the numbers. It's just his will to win. It was unbelievable.
He just threw him on his back and said, okay, we're going to go win this game because I said so.
He refused to not score. When he had to, he was like, no matter what I have to do, we're going to score. Whether it's breaking tackles and running for the chains, whatever he had to do. Yeah, Chad, I almost said Joe, I'm still not over it, Chad. I'm still not over it. And I'm still very angry. And you referred to McDermott taking some hits. And I just had a podcast this past week with Joe Buffalo Wins. And it was largely about Tyler Dunn's article about Sean McDermott. And I know a lot of Bills fans didn't like that shit because it felt personal. I know a lot of Bills fans thought it was personal, Tyler, and Sean, but was he wrong? I mean, the guy gagged away an opportunity for the Bills to go to the Super Bowl. And you don't blame nobody else. Don't blame the special teams coach. Don't blame Leslie Frazier. It was literally Sean. Now, maybe the Bills aren't as good of a franchise without Sean McDermott, but in that moment, in the heat of the playoffs, he's the only reason why the Bills didn't end up going to the Super Bowl.
Look, that story never happens if you just address it. Answer the questions. Yeah. All you had to do once, man. You were asked numerous times, just what happened? Just tell us what happened. It's okay. You'll still be the coach. It's okay. Just tell us. So, he made his bed in that regard, and now you got to sleep in it, bud. Now you got this story. Now you got comments, and now you got some, Brian Dable things, and and some other coaches that are leaving in other comments. So it's, it's out there. He's still going to be the coach of his team for a long time, but you kind of set yourself up, buddy, and that's that's what you're going to get.
And it's not even just angry shithead fans like us. I mean, Tyler's article was players. He had source quotes from players talking about you reach accountability, but you don't practice it yourself. You know what I'm saying? 100%. So that obviously that reverberated around the locker room, him not taking more public accountability. I don't have to give every single
But not even
detail
public.
out.
Even like he didn't even tell them what happened.
Yeah, right, exactly. It was like, all right, season
At
over.
the very least, tell your players.
Yeah, right. And and a couple of people have said, well, it was the end of the season. It wasn't like it was game film getting ready for the next week.
Doesn't matter
After that. But yeah, I agree 100%, man. It just
when that happens, you need to tell someone.
Agreed.
Like, yeah.
Last question. I'm gonna let you go. Baseball. I don't know if you're a baseball guy or not, but finally all right, okay. If you happen to be watching on YouTube, which by the way, if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, make a comment too. I've learned that the algorithm matters. More people who comment and interact on a video, YouTube puts them in better places. But anyway, Chad just threw up a Yankees t-shirt. Good, man. I'm a Yankees guy too. But anyway, how close did you come? Obviously, you look pretty excited, so you do care.
Wow.
Did you come close to not giving a shit anymore? Because I'm gonna tell you, man, I was right on the bubble, right on the verge of saying I'm done with baseball. And I know I've said this before. I meant it. I was like, I'm really close to being done. This fucking strike, this and that. I got hockey, I got basketball going on. Football literally never ends. I mean, we're not even in free agency yet, and football's stealing headlines every single day. Like, I don't need baseball in my life anymore, but it is back, and I didn't get myself to that point. Did you come close to being like, fuck this sport?
So here's my relationship with baseball. I care for the first 2 weeks of the season, and then I don't care again until August or September. So I'll check if the Yankees are winning games. I'll check standings. I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, they're doing pretty good. Oh,
they got a fantasy baseball player then?
No, God, no. No, not at all. Which is weird because for a numbers guy, you think I'd be in the baseball because numbers are huge in baseball. Not at all. I cannot watch a baseball game from start until end unless there's a player I want to watch potentially that might get me a whole game, like who the Yankees are playing against, or it's a playoff game, or I'm there on TV. No, I'll get 2 innings. I'll come inside out, from sitting outside in the summer. I'll come in, pop a Yankee game on. I'll watch an inning, and then I'm out. Like I just can't. I cannot commit to a full baseball game unless there's a playoff game or a meaningful game at the end of the season, or maybe a Red Sox game. Like if it's a Red Sox game, I might be in for that. But
fantasy baseball is probably my favorite thing, and I'll say this too. What I like about fantasy baseball the most is that I feel like it is actually a game more of skill, whereas fantasy football is just bullshit, man. Anybody could throw a 1 week lineup together. You know what I'm saying? And get lucky out one day.
Yeah.
No, I'm not disrespecting my wife, but she's won 3 of the last 4 leagues, and this is an all guy league.
Impressive.
No disrespect to women. I mean, I know many women who know 10 times more football than me and 99%.
Oh, me too. 100%.
Well, 100%. But it's just, my point is, my wife specifically, I know her. She ain't no football guru, man. You know what I'm saying? But she somehow has won, which is pretty embarrassing to me because I've never won any. But she's won 3 of the last 4 leagues that we've done. I like baseball because it's a daily grind, and it does keep you, and I'm sure it's the same with hockey and basketball too, if you do fantasy, but it really keeps you involved in the game on a day-to-day basis. Like, I'm a Yankees fan, just like you. The downside is I've become less of a Yankees fan because of fantasy baseball, because, quite often you're playing against guys on the Yankees or whatever,
right. I get it,
but stuff like that. But it does keep me really engaged. I'd like to do fantasy hockey, but I'm just not smart enough to know enough hockey players, quite honestly, man.
Yeah, I hear you. I've honestly, the one thing the pandemic has done to me is honestly like take away my interest in fantasy sports. Like, usually I do like 3 fantasy football leagues. I last year I didn't do any. This year I did 1, and I was kind of, and then fantasy hockey, same thing. I'm in the 1 dynasty league, and even that, like, my team has started off horribly, and I'm just like, well, screw that. I mean, I honestly looked at the team in like a month. Like, I had no shot because the way the league is set up, it's like it's not a head-to-head thing. It's kind of earning points, and I'm like 25 points back. I'm like, yep, I'm not catching anybody. I guess I'll see you. I guess I'll see you when the draft starts. Like, that's.
Oh, so you're that guy that everyone else in the league can't.
I did put Eichel in because I drafted Eichel. But I did put Eichel in when he started playing. That I did do at least. I should have mentioned too. Like, I only have 1 team per sport. Like, if I do fantasy football or baseball, I only have 1 team because there's nothing more I hate than when on Sunday you're like, I got Josh Allen going. Yeah.
oh, fuck, I'm playing against Josh Allen in my other league. You know what I mean? So you're like rooting for him in one league and rooting against them in another league. I hate that. Before you go, do me a favor. Let people know what they get with Expected Buffalo, because you could obviously do a much better job than I do. And you do a great job. I've still tried. You're smart. I don't like saying analytics and all that stuff too often, but you're a smart writer. Let's just put it that way. And you come up with charts and stats and just articles that I call smart stuff. And I'm still in the process of learning how to understand it. I have taken a much better approach. I'm getting better at it. But for people out there watching, people out there listening, tell them exactly what you do and what they get with Expected Buffalo.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. I always tell people that I'm not really that smart. I'm just good at acting smart. So I tell Anthony all the time, I'm not as smart as you think I am. I'm just a good actor at it. But no, I mean, it's what we're doing over there. We're having a lot of fun. It's me, Anthony Chandra.
I love Anthony, by the way.
And Eddie. Eddie's the new guy. Look we tell people that Eddie, he's the stats guy. He's the smart guy. He's the guy that can do the models. And if you read his stuff, the charts he puts in there and he comes up with his own model, like that's all him. Like he's a guy. He's somebody the Sabres could have hired. Where Anthony and I we're not as in depth as he is, because he has that stats and that that data background from school. But the three of us, we cover the Sabres, obviously. Number driven, not all the time, but a lot of it. The one fun thing for Buffalo fans that we just started doing, because Eddie is also very into lacrosse. So we actually just posted our first Buffalo Bandits article this week.
Really?
Yes. So we're going to get more into some Bandits coverage here and some fancy stat numbers with lacrosse. So if you're a box lacrosse fan or Bandits fan, or even a Nighthawks fan, Eddie actually works pretty closely with the Nighthawks. But he covers all in the box lacrosse, so that's his deal. So we'll be having some lacrosse stuff from Eddie. So a little bit of a different vibe, kind of branching out from 2 years now nearly. It actually April 4th will be 2 years of Expected Buffalo being live.
Wow,
which is crazy. It's been 2 years already. So we're branching out a little bit, something different. I think eventually we might even see some Bill stuff, but I don't want to tease too much. We'll see where that goes.
Really?
But yeah, I mean, we're trying to expand. We're trying to get people more. Subscription is $5 a month. You get full access to all of our articles. I do player tracking for college and AHL, which are microstats, which is like shot share and shot quality and shot contributions. All that fun kind of stuff. That you really can't find anywhere else, because that all has to be manually tracked. So for Sabres prospects and the AHL prospects, we provide that to you as part of your $5 membership, and then also the podcast. But the podcast is free. But all that fun stuff, and we do, even more. Like I said, we have thoughts about how we're going to expand. So we'll see where that takes us here. A lot of fun things going on over at Expected Buffalo for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, and I sincerely, legitimately mean this, man. What I like most about what you do, and you just alluded to it, is you do stuff that you ain't going to get anywhere else. So like when it comes to an example for the Buffalo Bills, look, man, there's a lot of writers out there. There's a lot of podcasters out there. I love their content, man. But you're not really hearing and seeing a hell of a lot from one specific person that you're not going to get from the next guy. And I'm including myself, by the way. So, if anyone takes it as an insult out there, I'm insulting myself as well. I mean, we all do a good job, but you know what I'm saying? It's when it comes to what you do, you either you're going to you or you ain't going to get it around here when it comes to the Buffalo Sabres and hockey. It's just the way it is. I'm just going to say that, man. I really, truly appreciate you not only doing the podcast, but again, jumping on and taking over this week for Joe Yerdon. And especially being willing to jump on. It's almost midnight now. So, I mean, I'm
not even tired yet, man. I'm so right.
Not even tired. I'm a little tired, but I really do, man. I really appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. Always fun talking to you. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah.
I will be back, guys, next week, free agency week. Greg Thompson's going to be on Monday's show. It's going to be a big week. We're probably going to have 3 or 4 episodes.
Ask Greg some hockey questions. Greg knows hockey. Trust me. Tell him Chad said to ask you hockey questions. He'll love it.
Talk to you later, guys.
All right, see you.